My name is Emily, and I am 21 years old. I study medicine at the university during the day. At night and on weekends, I work as a fashion model. The money from modeling pays for my books, my rent, and my student loans. I do not love modeling, but I am good at it. The photographers like me because I am tall and I follow instructions well. My classmates do not know about my modeling work. They think I come from a rich family. I never correct them because it is easier that way. One evening, I went to a charity event at the Grand Hotel. The modeling agency sent me there to wear expensive dresses and smile for photographs. The ballroom was full of rich people in beautiful clothes. They drank champagne and talked about art and business. I stood near the window and watched them. A man approached me slowly. He was much older than everyone else in the room, maybe 55 years old. He wore a perfect black suit and expensive shoes. One evening, I went to a charity event at the Grand Hotel. The modeling agency sent me there to wear expensive dresses and smile for photographs. The ballroom was full of rich people in beautiful clothes. They drank champagne and talked about art and business. I stood near the window and watched them. A man approached me slowly. He was much older than everyone else in the room, maybe 55 years old. He wore a perfect black suit and expensive shoes. "You look bored," he said to me. His voice was deep and confident. I turned to look at him. He had gray hair and cold blue eyes. "I am working," I answered. "Models are not supposed to look bored. We are supposed to look mysterious." He smiled a little. "You are different from the others," he said. "You watch people. You study them." I did not reply immediately. This man was observant, too. "My name is Julian Sterling," he continued. "I own Sterling Technologies and several art galleries." I knew that name. Everyone knew that name. Julian Sterling was one of the richest men in the country. He appeared in business magazines and news articles. "I am Emily," I said simply. "Just Emily?" he asked. "Yes, just Emily," I confirmed. He found this amusing. We talked for 30 minutes about art, technology, and medicine. He asked intelligent questions about my studies. I was surprised that he listened carefully to my answers. The next week, Julian invited me to dinner at an exclusive restaurant. I accepted because I was curious. The restaurant had only 10 tables and 3 Michelin stars. Julian ordered wine that cost more than my monthly rent. "I want to make you a proposal," he said during dessert. "I need someone to accompany me to events, dinners, and business trips. Someone intelligent and beautiful. I will pay you $50,000 per month." I put down my fork and looked at him carefully. "Why me?" I asked. "You have money. You can have anyone." Julian leaned back in his chair. "Because you are smart enough to understand my world, but not part of it yet. You are perfect." He watched my face for a reaction. "What exactly would I have to do?" I asked slowly. "Attend events with me. Travel when I need you. Be available when I call. Look beautiful and make me look good." His words were simple, but I understood the real meaning behind them. I did not answer that night. I went home and thought carefully about his offer. $50,000 per month would pay off all my student loans in 1 year. I could finish medical school without working nights as a model. But I understood what Julian really wanted. He did not want just a companion. He wanted to own someone young and pure. He wanted to collect me like he collected paintings and expensive cars. This was not about romance. This was about power. 3 days later, Julian called me. "Have you made your decision?" he asked. "I need to know something first," I said. "What happens if I say no?" There was a long silence on the phone. Then Julian spoke very quietly. "Emily, I know about your student loans. I know about your scholarship that depends on your perfect grades. I have friends at your university and at your modeling agency. It would be very easy to make your life difficult." His threat was clear but polite. I felt cold inside, but my voice stayed calm. "I understand," I said. "When do we start?" Julian sounded pleased. "Tomorrow night. I will send a car for you at 7. After I hung up the phone, I sat down and created a plan. Julian thought he was trapping me, but he was making a mistake. He believed I was just a pretty model who needed money. He did not know that medical students learn to observe carefully and document everything. He did not know that I was very good at research. The next evening, a black car arrived at my apartment. The driver took me to Julian's penthouse in the tallest building downtown. The apartment was enormous with windows that showed the entire city. Julian greeted me at the door wearing casual, expensive clothes. "Welcome," he said. "Let me show you around." The penthouse had 6 bedrooms, a library, an office, and even a small art gallery. Everything was perfect and cold, like a museum. "We are going to Paris next week," Julian told me. "I have business meetings and then a gallery opening. You will need new clothes. I have arranged for a stylist to meet you tomorrow." He handed me a credit card with my name on it. "Buy whatever you need. Do not worry about the price." I took the card and put it in my purse. "Thank you," I said. Julian smiled. "You are mine now, Emily. Do not forget that." That night, Julian expected me to stay at his penthouse. I did stay, but not in the way he imagined. While he slept, I explored his office carefully. I found files about his business deals and personal papers about people he had helped in the past. I took photographs with my phone of the most interesting documents. I saw patterns immediately. Julian did this regularly. He found young, talented people and made them dependent on him. Some were artists. Some were musicians. One was a journalist. All of them eventually disappeared from his life completely. I became very careful after that night. During the day, I attended my classes and studied for exams. At night, I played the role Julian wanted. I wore beautiful dresses and smiled at his business partners. I went to expensive restaurants and art galleries. I listened to boring conversations about money and investments. But I was always watching and learning. Julian introduced me as my dear Emily to everyone we met. He touched my back possessively when we walked into rooms. In Paris, Julian had meetings with French technology companies. I sat quietly during the dinners and looked decorative. The businessmen barely looked at me. They thought I was just another pretty girl who did not understand their conversations. This was Julian's mistake, too. He talked freely about his business deals in front of me. He discussed tax problems and accounting issues. He mentioned shell companies and offshore accounts. He thought I was not listening, but I recorded everything in my memory. One night in Paris, we returned to the hotel after a long dinner. Julian gave me an envelope on the bed. "For tonight," he said casually. Inside was $5,000 in cash. I looked at the money and then at him. "This is separate from your monthly payment," he explained. "This is for being especially accommodating." I understood exactly what he meant. He was treating me like a prostitute. He wanted me to feel cheap and owned. I took the money without speaking and put it in my suitcase. That moment changed everything for me. Until then, I had felt some guilt about my plan. Maybe Julian was just lonely, I had thought. Maybe he really did care about me in his own way. But the envelope of cash destroyed any sympathy I had. This was not about companionship or even attraction. This was about humiliation and control. Julian wanted to prove that everyone had a price, including me. He wanted to break something pure and keep it in his collection of broken things. I started documenting everything more carefully after Paris. I kept a detailed journal of every event we attended and every conversation I heard. I researched Julian's business partners and discovered connections to suspicious companies. I found 3 women who had been in my position before. I contacted them anonymously through social media. They all told similar stories. Julian had promised them careers and money. He had controlled them completely for months or years. Then he had discarded them suddenly, often destroying their reputations when they tried to leave. One woman named Sarah had been a violinist. Julian had promised to fund her music career. Instead, he made her available only for his private concerts. When she tried to leave, he told everyone in the music world that she was unstable and difficult. Now she taught music to children in a small town. Another woman named Rebecca had been a journalist. Julian had given her access to exclusive stories, but controlled what she could publish. When she tried to write the truth about him, he sued her for defamation and won because he had better lawyers. I realized that Julian did not just collect people for pleasure, he collected them to destroy them. It fed something dark inside him. He needed to prove that talented, beautiful, intelligent people could be bought and broken. Each person he destroyed made him feel more powerful. I decided that I would not be another name on his list. Instead, I would be the one who finally stopped him. But I needed to be patient and very careful. 6 months passed. I played my role perfectly. I smiled at Julian's friends and laughed at their jokes. I wore the jewelry he bought me and stayed quiet during important meetings. Julian became more confident around me. He stopped being careful about what he said. He brought business documents home and left them on his desk. He made phone calls about questionable deals while I was in the room. He truly believed I was just a beautiful object that he owned. During this time, I met Marcus Chen at one of Julian's charity events. Marcus was a lawyer who specialized in corporate fraud and ethics violations. We talked briefly about medical ethics and legal ethics. I mentioned casually that I was interested in business law. Marcus gave me his card. "Call me if you ever want to discuss it further," he said. I kept that card in a very safe place. I knew I would need it eventually. Julian's treatment of me became worse as time passed. The envelopes of cash appeared more frequently. He introduced me to his friends as my investment or my current project. He liked to tell stories about how he had saved me from poverty and difficult work. He never asked about my medical studies anymore. In his mind, I had stopped being a real person. I was just a possession that proved his wealth and power. Every humiliation made me more determined to destroy him. One evening, Julian had too much wine at dinner. We were alone in his penthouse. He started talking about his philosophy of life. "Everything has a price, Emily," he said. "Art, loyalty, love, dignity, everything. People who say otherwise are liars or fools. I have bought everything I ever wanted. I bought companies, politicians, and beautiful women like you. This is how the world really works." He looked at me with those cold blue eyes expecting agreement. "What about things that cannot be bought?" I asked quietly. Julian laughed. "Name one thing," he challenged. "Self-respect," I said. "Freedom, justice." Julian laughed harder. "Self-respect is cheap. Freedom is an illusion. Justice belongs to whoever has the best lawyers. You are young, Emily. You still believe in fairy tales. Give it time. I am teaching you how the real world works." He touched my face in a way that made my skin crawl. I smiled and said nothing, but inside I was thinking about the evidence I had collected. I had been with Julian for almost 8 months when I finally contacted Marcus Chen. We met at a coffee shop far from the city center where Julian's friends would never go. I brought printed copies of documents and my detailed journal. Marcus read everything carefully for 2 hours. His expression became more serious with each page. Finally, he looked up at me. "This is substantial," he said. "Julian Sterling has committed securities fraud, tax evasion, and possibly witness intimidation. But Emily, you need to understand something. He has powerful friends and excellent lawyers." "I understand," I said to Marcus, "but I am not doing this for money or revenge. I am doing this because he will continue to hurt people if someone does not stop him. I can finish medical school with the money he has already paid me. I do not need anything else from him. I just need him to face consequences for his actions." Marcus studied my face for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "We will need more evidence. Specifically, we need proof of the financial crimes that we can verify independently. Can you get access to his personal computer or his private files?" I thought about Julian's home office. He had a safe behind a painting, but I had watched him open it several times. I had memorized the combination because medical students are trained to remember sequences of numbers. "Yes," I told Marcus. "I can get what you need. But we have to move quickly. Julian is planning a business trip to Singapore next month. He wants me to go with him. I think he is planning something there, maybe moving money to hidden accounts. After that trip, he might end our arrangement." Marcus leaned forward seriously. "Then we have 3 weeks. Can you do this?" The next 2 weeks were the most stressful of my life. I had to act completely normal around Julian while planning his destruction. I smiled and played my role perfectly. I went to his events and wore his jewelry. But every time he left me alone in the penthouse, I worked quickly. I copied files from his computer onto encrypted drives. I photographed documents from his safe. I recorded conversations with a small device hidden in my purse. Julian noticed nothing because he genuinely believed I was too simple to understand what I was seeing. One night, Julian received a phone call that made him angry. He was talking to someone about a business deal that was failing. After the call ended, he threw his phone across the room. It hit the wall and broke into pieces. "Incompetent fools," he shouted. Then he looked at me sitting on the sofa. "You are lucky, Emily. You do not have to think about complex things. You just have to be beautiful and do what you are told. Life is so much simpler for people like you." I nodded and smiled, but inside I was thinking about the evidence hidden in my apartment. I gave Marcus everything I had collected. He worked with a team of investigators and forensic accountants. They spent days analyzing the documents and files. Finally, Marcus called me with news. "We have enough," he said. "Julian has been committing securities fraud for at least 5 years. He has shell companies in 3 countries that exist only to hide money and avoid taxes. He has manipulated stock prices and lied to investors. Emily, this is going to be big. Are you absolutely sure you want to proceed?" I thought about Sarah the violinist and Rebecca the journalist. I thought about all the other people Julian had destroyed. I thought about the envelope of cash he had given me in Paris. "Yes," I said firmly. "I am sure. What happens next?" Marcus explained the plan. We would give the evidence to the Securities and Exchange Commission and to the FBI. There would be investigations and eventually criminal charges. But first, I needed to end my arrangement with Julian in a way that would protect me legally. The Singapore trip arrived. Julian was excited because he was finalizing a major deal there. We flew first class and stayed in the most expensive hotel in the city. Julian had meetings every day with Asian businessmen. I accompanied him to some meetings and stayed in the hotel during others. On the 3rd night, we had dinner in our hotel suite. Julian gave me another envelope of cash. "You have been perfect these past months," he said. "Exactly what I needed. Beautiful, quiet, and obedient. Thank you," I said quietly. Julian poured himself more wine. "I have been thinking about our arrangement," he continued. "After this trip, I will be very busy with new projects. I think it might be time for us to end things. Of course, I will give you a generous final payment. Shall we say $100,000? He said this casually, like he was discussing the weather. This was how he always did it, I realized. He made the women dependent on him, used them completely, and then discarded them with a payment that was supposed to make them grateful. "That is very generous," I said. I kept my voice neutral and calm. Julian smiled, pleased with himself. "You have learned well, Emily. You understand how these things work now. I hope you will remember me fondly." He reached across the table and touched my hand. "You will use the money wisely, I am sure. Perhaps you will finally finish that medical degree." His tone made it clear that he did not believe I would actually become a doctor. In his mind, I was already ruined, already part of his collection of broken things. That night was the last night I spent with Julian Sterling. I played my role one final time. I smiled and thanked him for his generosity. I acted like a young woman who was sad but accepting. Julian went to sleep satisfied, believing he had successfully bought and discarded another person. While he slept, I took photographs of the final documents I needed. Then I packed my things quietly and prepared for what would come next. The next morning, Julian had an early meeting. He left the hotel suite at 7 in the morning. I waited exactly 30 minutes. Then I left too. I went directly to the airport and flew back home. I did not tell Julian I was leaving. I blocked his phone number and deleted all his contact information. By the time Julian realized I was gone, I was already meeting with Marcus Chen and the federal investigators. I gave them everything I had collected during the past 8 months. The investigation moved quickly because the evidence was so clear. Within 2 weeks, the Securities and Exchange Commission announced they were investigating Sterling Technologies for securities fraud and false financial statements. The news appeared in every major newspaper and website. Julian's stock price dropped 40% in one day. His business partners started distancing themselves from him. His powerful friends suddenly became unavailable when he called. Julian's perfect world was collapsing, and he still did not know that I was the reason. 1 month after I returned from Singapore, Julian tried to contact me. He sent emails and left voice messages. At first, his messages were confused and angry. "Where are you? Why did you leave without telling me?" he wrote. Then his messages became desperate. "Emily, I need to talk to you. Please call me back. This is important." Finally, his messages became threatening. "I know what you did. You will regret this. I will destroy you." But it was too late for Julian. The federal investigation was already too advanced to stop. I changed my phone number and moved to a different apartment. I focused completely on my medical studies. I used the money Julian had paid me to finish my degree without working as a model anymore. My professors noticed that I was suddenly more focused and present in class. My grades improved even more. I made new friends who knew nothing about Julian Sterling or my past 8 months. I started to feel like myself again, like the person I was before I met him. The legal process against Julian took almost a year. The FBI found evidence of securities fraud, tax evasion, and money laundering. Several of Julian's business partners agreed to testify against him in exchange for reduced charges. The trial was covered extensively by the media. Journalists discovered the stories of Sarah, Rebecca, and other women Julian had exploited. Suddenly, Julian was not just a criminal businessman. He was also a predator who had manipulated and controlled vulnerable young women for years. His reputation was completely destroyed. During the trial, I was called to testify. I sat in the courtroom and answered questions calmly and clearly. I explained how I had met Julian and how he had threatened me when I wanted to refuse his offer. I described the documents I had found and the conversations I had recorded. I showed the envelopes of cash he had given me. Julian sat at the defense table with his expensive lawyers, staring at me with hatred. He finally understood that the quiet, beautiful girl he thought he owned had actually been studying him the entire time. The jury found Julian guilty on 17 counts of fraud and tax evasion. The judge sentenced him to 12 years in federal prison and ordered him to pay $40 million in fines and restitution. Sterling Technologies collapsed completely. Julian's art collection was sold to pay his debts. His penthouse was seized by the government. Everything he had built was gone. The man who believed everything had a price had finally paid a price himself, and that price was everything he valued. After the trial ended, I received a letter from Sarah, the violinist. She wrote that she was playing music again with a new orchestra. She thanked me for having the courage to stop Julian. Rebecca, the journalist, wrote an article about the case. She interviewed me and the other women Julian had hurt. The article was published in a major magazine. It was titled, "The Collector's Downfall: How One Medical Student Brought Down a Billionaire Predator." The article won an award for investigative journalism. I graduated from medical school 2 years after Julian went to prison. I specialized in trauma medicine because I wanted to help people who had been hurt. I understood what it felt like to be treated as less than human. I understood the importance of fighting back against people who abuse their power. My experience with Julian had changed me, but it had not broken me. Instead, it had made me stronger and more determined to make a difference in the world. Sometimes people ask me if I regret what happened with Julian Sterling. They ask if I wish I had never met him, or if I feel guilty about destroying his life. My answer is always the same. I do not regret it at all. Julian made a choice to threaten me and treat me as property. He made a choice to hurt many people before me. I simply made a choice to stop him. He believed that everything had a price and that everyone could be bought. He learned that some things cannot be bought, and some people cannot be broken. That was a lesson he needed to learn, even if it cost him everything.